that we've all seen, like the infomercials and the Instagram posts and the Facebook posts, and even, if you've seen posts on our site, or when we're showing like side by side pictures, a lot of times we get this feeling that every transformation needs to be like drastic, and if we take pictures and we don't look like we were on an infomercial, then we start to kind of get discouraged and we feel like I'm not progressing because of the fact that, our side-by-side picture doesn't look like it should be like in a magazine or on TV or something like that. So one of the things that's really, really important when I'm going to name probably about 5 that you should look for when you're taking progress pictures, so that you can look at them with a realistic eye and so that you don't give up. Because so many people, they go and they take these pictures, and when they don't look like they expected, or when it's not this huge dramatic transformation like you would see on TV, then they think like, oh my gosh, I must be doing something wrong, and they run. And we've gotten a skewed vision of what progress actually looks like. So I'm going to give you about 5 reasons why when you're taking progress pictures you might not see progress at first, especially if you're taking them like every 4 weeks or something like that. So one of the things that I would say is that you're probably taking them at weird times of the day or month. So this is something that like we talk about when we're dealing with the scale. And we'll say, make sure if you're gonna weigh, like even though we don't recommend you weigh, if you're gonna weigh, get on under like the exact same conditions every time. Well, with pictures, it's somewhat the same too, because if you take your pictures at the beginning of your cycle 1 month, and then you take pictures, mid-cycle, you don't know what's going on with water retention, and water retention does show on pictures. I know it's one of those things like we think like, okay, because I'm not getting on the scale, I'm not going to pay attention to the water retention. But if you're bloated, that's going to show on a picture. So if you take a picture and it's mid-cycle, then you're going to notice some belly bloat, and you're going to be like, I knew it, nothing is working. So it's very, very important that even when it comes to taking your pictures, making sure that you're taking them around the same time of day or month or time of the month. Time of the day. A morning picture is going to the same, just like the scale. Your picture in the morning, you're going to be less bloated. You're going to look leaner because you don't have any food in your body than you do maybe at the end of the day. So understanding your times of the day, of the month, whatever, to take the pictures. Another thing that I would say is like people take pictures from very weird angles. I've noticed this with my clients. Sometimes the picture's way up here, sometimes it's down here. That's gonna make a difference in how you look. Like, have you guys ever noticed like on social media and selfies and everything, everybody's like, they take their pictures from like way up high because it makes them look thinner. If you have your camera positioned at a high point one of the times when you take a picture, and then you have it like below you, or you have like your 2-year-old take a picture the next time, those pictures are gonna look totally different. So you could be like doing a whole smoke and mirrors thing on yourself and not even realize it. And like I say, I realize this when clients send me pictures, because sometimes they'll send me a picture and one may be like way zoomed in on the body and one may be from far away. Or sometimes when people are setting up their own before and afters, a lot of times they don't realize that one of their pictures they're really zoomed in on themselves, and another picture they're far away, and then they put them side by side and they're like, I was so much skinnier in that picture. Anything from farther away is gonna look skinnier. So depending on which picture it is, if your before picture is from way far away and your after picture you're like zoomed in like on your belly or something, like you're gonna look way bigger. So that's something that you want to take into consideration, is what's the positioning of the mirror. So if you're going to be taking them yourself, then you need to use the timer on your camera, put it in the exact same spot, like figure out what your spot is, where you're going to take it from, and set the camera, the phone or whatever on that spot every single time, and walk to the exact same spot and take the picture. So that way, you're actually comparing apples to apples. Because a lot of times, a lot of people aren't doing that, especially, like I say, when they're doing their own. Like one is from here and one's from here. So you can see there, this hand looks smaller. So just something to think about. Okay, another one that I would say is that, and again, these are the things that I see with my clients all the time. I know that I did them myself, so I'm assuming that you're doing them. Is that you take a picture, right? How many of us do this? And you zone right in on the part that you want to be gone. And if that part's not gone, you're not seeing any progress. That's not the way it works, people. The body loses where it loses, and we don't necessarily have control over that. So if you take a picture and you're like stupid saddlebags are still there, and you throw your phone across the room, you didn't even get a chance to see if there was real progress there. Because most of the time, that's where it's happening, is places that you didn't look. So if you're zeroing in on the area that you want gone and nothing's happening, you're not looking at anything else. You're only staring at your belly or your thighs or that crease in your back or whatever it is. And you're judging all of your progress based on that one area, and you're not looking at all of the other areas that maybe you don't really care about that are showing progress. But if you're paying attention to those areas and they are showing progress, then that means you're progressing and you just keep moving forward. So this is one of the things that you want to pay attention to is, are you just looking at one spot? Are you just judging your pictures based on one spot? Is progress happening somewhere else? Are you taking progress pictures to see if your legs shrunk and not paying attention to the fact that maybe your butt's a little bit higher or your arms are a little bit thinner, or, you know, something is fitting you differently in the picture? Or are you only focused on the legs and everything else is scrapped if those legs don't look smaller? If that's what you're doing, then you are missing the point. The point of progress is that all progress is progress. If you can look over your, and my clients know this, like I teach them, like you're looking over those pictures with like a fine tooth comb. If you find any slight inkling of progress, you keep going, because that is how progress happens. Real progress is not an infomercial. Real progress is not, you know, an Instagram post. And this is one of the things that if, like, when I do this with my clients, it kind of ticks them off, because they're like, yeah, but this isn't there. And I'm like, but there is progress there. This is something. This is showing that even if that's not happening, something's happening. So you don't want to toss everything to the side because of the one thing that you want to happen that's not happening. Another big one that most of my clients go through at the beginning, especially when, like, I look at their pictures and I'm like, oh man, everything's going great, and they're looking at them and they're like, oh my gosh, this sucks, nothing's happening, is not understanding juxtaposition. So that's like understanding how one part is changing in relation to another. Now this ties into the fact of looking for that trouble area, like zoning in on your trouble spot and saying like, oh my gosh, it didn't change. One of the reasons why it may look like it didn't change is, A, if everything is getting smaller at the same rate, then that means whatever part was bigger still looks bigger overall. So you have to look at it that way. Also, understanding that if you do have a trouble zone, the trouble zones are going to be the last to go. That's why they're a trouble zone, which means that stuff is going to happen everywhere else first. And if things are happening everywhere else first, so say for instance your trouble zone is your belly, and you just take a picture, look at your belly, and you're like, this is stupid, nothing's working. In every picture, that's what you're looking for. If everything else is shrinking and the belly hasn't yet, then understand that that means that your belly is going to look bigger because everything else got smaller. That doesn't mean that the belly is actually getting bigger. That doesn't mean that nothing's happening. It doesn't mean that there's no progress at all. It just means you have to understand the order that your body is going to lose fat in is going to be different for everyone. And if one thing went down and something else stayed the same, that thing is going to look bigger. If everything goes down at the exact same rate, if you're shrinking at the exact same rate, everything looks the same. So that's going to be really confusing for you, because like I said, if there's just one thing wrong, like that picture is zoomed in a little too much on one, then guess what? You look exactly the same. If one picture you're actually smaller but it's zoomed in, it looks exactly the same as a new picture. It's really like there's this whole catch-22 to all of the different methods of tracking. That's why you really have to understand how to look at it, and we can't look for those like big like, oh, I did the 21-day challenge or whatever, like transformation where it's like I dropped 6 sizes in the 21 weeks, you know. So it's like, okay, if I'm doing 21 days, 24 weeks, you know, 6 months, whatever the thing is, your changes are going to be relative to that. So another thing that I do with my clients is I always take whatever picture they just gave me, and instead of only comparing 4 weeks to 4 weeks ago, I compare it to like the first picture that we ever took. so that they constantly see their overall progress, because that's where it happens. That's where that compound effect happens, is when you start comparing pictures that are the farthest apart. You don't want to always compare pictures that are the closest together. Don't compare something, you know, if I take pictures now and I take pictures 4 weeks from now, I'm not going to compare the 4-week pictures to this week. I'm going to compare them to the ones that I took either 4 weeks before now, or 2 months before now, or last year, because I want to know, am I making overall progress? Because sometimes there's things that happen in a certain month that is random, and maybe that particular picture didn't turn out well. So when you go to compare month to month, sometimes the progress is so small that it can be discouraging. Because like I said, if you take a picture, you know, during, you know, while you're on your period and you're bloated, and the pictures that you took the week before or the week later would look totally different, but you never captured that moment, when you go to compare that to last month, it may have, that bloat may have filled in the little bit of progress space that was there, and so you don't see it. So you want to make sure that if you understand that, then you're looking at stuff that happened overall, because after all, this is a long haul process. We want to make sure that we're making progress over months and months and months and years. And if you can't compare a picture from this year to a picture of last year and look better, then that shows that something went wrong, that something is changing, and probably not for the better. That's the problem that most of us have with the diets that we went on. And that's why we have these pictures of us when we were like, oh, I was so skinny then. But are you skinny now? And if you're not, then there was a problem there. That meant that that diet didn't work. So those are the things that you want to make sure that when you're looking at those pictures, you have the eye. And it's going to be different things for different people, but go over it with scrutiny to see, is there any small, minute shift that has happened? And if it has, then you're on the right track and you keep progressing. Now, some of the weird shifts that I found, even with some of my clients, like there's things like tattoos that move that they don't even notice, and I notice it. So to me, I automatically know that there's progress. When I'm like, did you notice that your tattoo is now, you know, at the front of your shoulder, and before it was here, you know, or something happening with the way that their clothes are fitting, like maybe your bottoms are covering more of your bottom in the picture. You want to pay attention to stuff like that. Is the sports bra hitting in a different place on your back? Whatever you're wearing when you're taking the pictures, you want to make sure that those are the things that you're looking for. And if any of those things are happening, then you're progressing. If your progress pics suck, it might just be that you're looking at them in a kind of sucky way, and you're just looking at them to either criticize yourself or to prove that something's not working, or to be like, I know there's not going to be anything, but I'm just going to take the pictures anyways. And then you take the pictures with that attitude, and guess what you see? You see nothing, because that's what you were looking for. So go to the pictures and actually look for anything, space them out as far apart as possible, understand the juxtapositioning, understand if one thing is shrinking and something else is not. That thing might look bigger. That doesn't mean that anything's wrong. It just means that that part is just a little bit slower. Let your body parts take the time that they need, okay? And take them in the same places, the same time. Set your phone in the same place. Don't zoom in on one picture and not on another. If you don't understand how to do it, then reach out to someone who does. Don't put one picture that has your head cut off and another picture that's full body, where you're like all the way back head to toe, because those pictures are going to look completely different from each other. You're going to look bigger in the no head picture. So that's just the way that it is. All right, everybody, thank you for interrupting your day to jump on and talk to me. If you guys have questions that about anything else that you want me to cover, make sure that you can post them here or wherever in the group, and I'll either hop on and answer them there, or if it's something that we need to hop on and chat about, then I'm more than happy to do that too. But thank you, and again, welcome to all the newbies who actually opened the email and clicked the link and came in. Talk to you guys later.